Welcome to Just Energy Radio with your host, naturopath and medical intuitive, Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theory that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swinging of a pendulum to the waves of the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is when we take everything in our universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita Louise on a journey through time and space where past, present, and future collide. Today, what you believe may be called into question. What we want to know is, who made up the rules? Be brave and step outside the box. We are about to turn our world upside down and venture into the unknown. Hold on. We are departing our own beliefs and entering alternative realms. Enjoy the possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. Well, today we're doing something a little bit different. Today we are shopping for the paranormal. And to help us do that, we have three different guests coming on throughout the 2-hour show. The first hour, we're going to be speaking with Jeromy Jones of Paranologies, and we're going to be talking about ghost hunting equipment. Very cool stuff. In the second hour, we're going to be talking to David Sereda about his light energy pendants. And in the third hour, we're going to be talking with Dakari Keys about aromatherapy flower essence sprays that you can use to increase your vibration and get rid of ghosts and other little presences that might be in your house. But Just Energy Radio is brought to you by soulhealer.com. Are you sick and tired of feeling sick and tired? Well, stop by soulhealer.com to discover all of the products and services I offer that can help you experience health, healing, and wholeness in your life. Now, there are a number of ways that you can be kept informed of who's coming on to Just Energy Radio. One, you can sign up for our weekly newsletter at www.justenergyradio.com, or you can like us on Facebook at justenergyradio.com. Now, if you've missed an episode of Just Energy Radio, please check out our archives, and they can be accessed. And, you know, we're just all over the place on, one, the Just Energy Radio webpage, where we have over 6 years of show archives. You can come right here to the Inception Radio Network and listen to the archives on the webpage, or you can check out Just Energy Radio on our YouTube channel. One last announcement, and I've been talking about this. Well, I talked about it a few weeks ago, but I have more details now, and I was talking about Brian Forrester, who's been on this show many times before, and I are organizing a tour to Peru. Yes, Peru, and we're going to go and get to touch and feel all of those really cool sites. We're going to Sacsayhuaman, where they have those giant megalithic stones that they look like a puzzle that were put together. We're going to go there. We're going to Machu Picchu. We're going to a bunch of different places. And one of the things that we're going down there to do is to do some remote viewing and to really work on trying to communicate with our ancestors or the ancestors of that land. Maybe find out who built that area. You know, are there vortexes there? Whatever, but it is being called the Science and Spirit Tour. And as part of it, or if you do the addition part, we're going down to Nazca and the Paracas area, and there's going to be a helicopter ride over the lines of Nazca. How cool is that? And we get to go to the Paracas Elongated Skull Museum and actually touch some of those elongated skulls, do like cameo photos with them. And anyway, all of that is happening at the very end of May. It is May 31st, and with the extension to June 12th. And so if it's something that you're interested in or want to get more information about, go to www.soulhealer.com. Scroll down a little bit, and you'll see a big picture of Sacsayhuaman, and click on the link, and it will take you to where all the information is about the tour. It is going to be so much fun. You just don't want to miss it. All right. So let's get things started. So let me tell you a little bit about Jeromy and get him on the air, because we're going to get all educated in the ghost hunting equipment world. Paranormal investigator Jeromy Jones designs and builds equipment for paranormal investigation. Founder of Paranologies, all of their custom equipment is built from the ground up with only paranormal investigation in mind. Their equipment includes modular line of IR and full spectrum illuminators and cameras, geopods, periscopes, phonopods, pyramids, tri-field audio-visual recorders. And hopefully by the time we're done with Jeromy, we'll know what all of that stuff is. And then you, too, can become a ghost hunter with all the latest high-tech gear. And so from Paranologies.com, Jeromy Jones. Hey, Jeromy, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am doing wonderful. You know, one of the things that we're going to be doing is going into this, 2,000-year-old cemetery while we're down there. And I'm like, well, can we do some EVP work? And they kind of told me, well, maybe not. I don't know. So that'll be fun. But Jeromy,
it sounds like it.
How did you get into the whole paranormal investigating world in the first place?
Ooh, we only have an hour, so I'll make it short. Well, I can tell you a quick story. I was about 5 years old, sitting at my grandparents' house and watching TV. I had two doors on either side of me. They were both open. They both slammed at the same time, which startled me. And then my grandmother, she had some pots and pans overhead on this island, and it would have been like if I would have took a broomstick and went through the pots and pans. They were swinging that hard. So the door slammed, that happened. I ran to get my dad. He was working on the sink, so he was a little upset. I'm busy. It's probably just the TV you're watching or whatever, some show. So he goes into this doorway. I go, can you please just check it out? He goes in the doorway, and he freezes. And I'm like, Dad, you all right? And I turn around and look at him, and he just can't talk. You can tell he's trying to. And I went and got my aunt. We pulled him out. He said he saw nothing but millions and billions of these white lights coming at him. And he was just frozen, but we pulled him out. So that was my first experience.
Well, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
5 years old, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, young age.
And there's doing the ghost hunting part, but one of your fortes is designing all of this equipment. I mean, where did that whole part come from?
Well, I went to school for electrical engineering. So that helped. But prior to that, I actually, my first job was doing car audio and video installs. I was 14, 15 years old. Wasn't supposed to work that early, but I had a shop that, was helping me out just for a first little job. And they were building some cool things in their cars, and I got into molding fiberglass and things like that up until age 20, and then went to school for electronics. And then I kind of combined the two, the arts and crafts with the electronics, and brought me here.
Yeah, because all of the stuff that you make all of the casings yourself. I mean, you really put these things together from the ground up. It's not like you go and buy this thing really off the shelf and this thing off the shelf and kind of, hot melt it together and sell it, right? Right,
yeah. I actually have I built a custom vacuum forming machine. And what that is basically you take a flat piece of plastic and you stick it in the oven with this little form that holds it together. All the things that you see, like my periscope, pyramid, all those things are first, I build a cast out of wood or fiberglass, and then I stick it above this little vacuum. And once the plastic melts to a certain degree where it starts to dip down, then you take that out, stick it on top, and the vacuum sucks it around the cast that I built. And that's what gives the plastic form, so it's the casings you were talking about. Then I cut it all out by hand with a razor blade, drill out the holes for certain pieces, insert the electronics, solder it all up. So, yeah, it's truly from the ground up. The only thing I don't build is the battery packs because it's not feasible. I mean, the battery packs are pretty cheap, and I can vacuum mold them, but for the cost, it would, it's feasible to do it that way.
Doesn't make any sense, huh?
Right.
So let's kind of work through some of this stuff. One of the things that I see that you have a lot of different models of are these IR sensor things, IR light things.
Yeah.
So what are those, and what would you use them for?
All right, so that was my very first design, what got me into all this.
I was like having a psychic moment on you?
You were, yes. Good choice. So, I build these IR illuminators, what they are, and they're infrared lights. We can't see infrared with our eyes, but our cameras can if they have certain filters on them. Ghost hunters love to investigate in the dark. There's certain reasons for that, but there's a lot of theories and things. But for me, it's just cool. But with the infrared lighting that's available on your normal cameras, they usually have a single LED light that's facing forward and creates this little halo around around your image. So that was annoying, seeing this little circle pattern on all my footage. So I decided to branch out and design my own illuminator, and we stick it in all of our rooms when we're doing our investigations. And basically, I put it on a sphere pattern, the LED, so it just widens the pattern of the infrared light, and it makes the footage very clear. And that's the goal. You want to get really good footage. And yeah, so those are about 7-8 years in the making. I've got them really looking good now.
And so, and I'm just trying to conceptualize this. So if you're in a room and you put, 2 or 3 of these things, around the edges, 4, let's say you put
Right.
one in each corner, would that from an IR perspective illuminate the room enough so that it would almost seem kind of daylight in your camera?
Exactly. You wouldn't want to use 4. I've designed it to where you actually only need 1. The large one that I sell has 49 LEDs, and it'll do about 75 to 100 feet for a room. The problem when you start putting IR illuminators in every corner of the room is that it'll look like somebody's shining a flashlight in your camera at all angles. So, you want to just put 1 in the corner, and that's the whole design behind this. You only need 1, and it floods the whole room. And it looks like the lights are on, in the room you're in, except it's completely dark.
And so it really gives you that much illumination.
Right. Yeah, I've got videos all over it. You can see it. I compare it, and there's some other groups out there that have compared it and sent me the videos. And yeah, it just gives you a whole lot of light to where, just makes your footage look really good, because you don't want a chair moving in the background and you have this halo on the screen, and then, it's pitch black around the halo. It's just horrible quality.
Well, and if you're using like a video camera or something like that, and it moves on either side of that halo, then you're really kind of losing a lot of what's going on.
Exactly, yeah. And then that's happened to me. So it's very frustrating.
Well, it sounds like, you and I have known each other for a while, and it sounds like a number of the things that you've designed, you've put together because you've either been frustrated from your own investigations, or you look out, to what is available, and you just don't see anything that take care of problems that people have during an investigation.
Yeah, that's the whole goal behind my equipment design. Is it's made for paranormal investigations. I want it to show up on camera instead of using a K2 meter or something that has a LCD readout. You have to have a camera right up to it. I want something where you can put out a frame and still pick it up, where if you're at a command center, I do a lot of residential cases, so we have about 13 cameras running, and we sit at a command center. And I put these sensors out, and you know where to go. It kind of points you in the direction of where you need to go conduct your investigation. So.
Okay, I'm just trying to think what else to ask about those things.
I can go through them if you want.
Well, no, I just mean that IR sensor thing. I mean,
oh yeah,
when you have that, so would you use that because you're going to pick up a ghost because you have that on, or is it more to just have the room illuminated so that if a chair falls over or a door opens up, you can catch that on film?
Exactly. It's for higher quality of footage, so if something does move, my forte is poltergeist activity, so I love seeing objects move. It intrigues me. Don't know why it happens, but so I want everything to look really good in the footage. It has nothing to do with catching a ghost or entity or anything like that. It's more of getting that great footage, and they say you investigate in the dark because the spirits can manifest easier without the outside illumination coming in and things like this. There's a lot of theories. I've tested some of them, haven't seen any different results. So, it's just, you're
It just
you're
looks
more in tune.
cooler.
Yeah, it looks cooler. No doubt. I do like things that look cool, but you're more in tune when you're sitting there in the dark anyway. You can hear things a little better and things like that. So
See, I'm a turn the light on kind of investigator myself. It's like it doesn't need to be dark in here.
Yeah,
That's when
that
the
is true.
spooky ghosts come out. Come on.
yeah. And what's funny is all of my clients, when the activity happens at their house, they're not sitting in the dark. They're sitting there normally, with the lights on.
Okay, so I mean, this isn't really like a ghost hunting show, but what has been some of the, give an example of something that you've picked up on camera, from either using this equipment that has been really intriguing to you.
Well, my number one piece of evidence that still intrigues me to this day is I actually caught, well, I would never be able to say it's actually anything paranormal because I can't prove that, but we were walking into a room, and I have a camera called the Tricam that we'll probably talk about later, but it's a panoramic camera, and so you can see about 200 degrees right in front of you on this LCD screen while you're carrying it. Well, I was walking into this little room. It was probably about 8 foot by 5 foot. It was a little computer room. And there was a window in front of me, and there was also a wall to the right of me where there was a little dog kennel. As I walked in, you could clearly see me in the view of the window, and you can see where I walked in. You can see the wall, but there was somebody standing beside me to my right. And they turned their head, looked at me, and looked away, and then I walked out of the room. So that's the most intriguing piece of evidence I've ever caught.
Did it scare the crap out of you?
Actually, it's crazy. I didn't see it at the time. It was during the review. We were watching, and one of my investigators were like, "Who's that standing there? And why are they turning their head, looking at you real quick?" And they had a hat on and like this old clothes. It was pretty freaky, but yeah, it was definitely interesting.
So from a technical point of view, I mean, I can understand on film how you would see a chair move. I mean, that's pretty obvious. But to pick up something spectral like that, I mean, from a technical engineering point of view, how do you think that happens?
Either it's the frequency of the cameras. I was running full spectrum cameras that night. So, we can't see the spectrum that these cameras see with our own eyes. So maybe I came in and, just picked up the frequency that it was generating or manifesting. Or that, full bodied apparition, if it was intelligent, it could have just wanted to be there. I don't know. There's a ton of theories, and I'm more of I've got to see it on my equipment to believe it, and it has to be very scientific and technical. So I don't have an explanation for why there was, a little boy standing next to me, but yeah.
But he was.
He was, yeah.
He was. So let's talk about that camera, the
Tricam.
The Tricam. I mean, I've seen it. For the people that are listening, I've seen it. This thing is freaking awesome. But go ahead. Okay. Why don't you explain, what it does, and we'll go from there.
Okay. So I'll explain to you why I designed it first. All the investigators, we walk around with handheld cameras, and your number one piece of evidence you're going to get is audio, EVPs, and things like that. The problem is most of the audio that you get that's shown as any type of paranormal evidence is so highly contaminated because there's either somebody standing beside you or out of frame and something like that, and it usually ends up being, that, not a ghost or anything like that. So I wanted to design a camera that kept everybody in frame at all times, and also it has two cameras in front of you. And on the screen, both of those cameras actually line up. It's one full image of 200 degrees. Then you have a third camera that's aimed at the camera operator. So if you're sitting in a residential area or, you've seen it, you and I have investigated together in Jefferson. Mm-hmm. So everybody is in frame at all times. So if we do pick up a weird voice or something interesting that we can't explain, we can at least take it to somebody and say, hey, look, everybody here is in frame. Here's this voice. You can obviously tell nobody's saying, this sentence or whatever we're hearing. So it just gives you a little bit more validation is why I designed it. But there's been a lot of interesting things that's come out of this camera since I designed it. But it would take 30 minutes to describe them all. But that's the gist of it.
Well, it sounds like it makes, one of the biggest things that you hear about ghost hunting is like, there was somebody in the other room, or, it's all just fake. And it sounds like it takes the documentation part to the next level, where you'd really have to be tricky to fake, to figure out how to fake it if the entire room is being filmed all at the same time.
Yeah, and the other cool thing about it is it actually records in, it's got an internal DVR. And so what that means is it doesn't output normal MPEG files or Windows Media files or anything like that. Those are pretty easy to fake. DVR files are encoded because it has 4 cameras into one file. So it would be really hard to fake. I've actually tried to do it just to show people it can't be. I was successful, but it took a lot of setup. I mean, it took a lot to actually fake it, but that just gives it a little bit more, respect as to not having a false positive. And
are these cameras the IR, the infrared camera also?
Yeah, they're actually infrared and ultraviolet. So they go up to about 900 nm for the infrared spectrum, and then they go down to about 330 in the UV. People, you'll hear a lot of people say full spectrum cameras. It's not, full spectrum cameras are $100,000. This is just the full spectrum of what this camera sensor can pick up. So I don't want to be, people saying, that's not a full spectrum camera. But yeah, it's just full spectrum of what this camera can pick up.
And why UV?
I try different things just to see if they work. We've all shot in the infrared for the last 8 to 10 years. That's been really high in the paranormal field. I've seen a lot of footage in ultraviolet that has been compelling. It's just a different spectrum to try to catch, the things we're studying. So if you widen your range and try to study in different, spectrums, then you might get better results instead of just doing the same thing over and over.
Oh, they're showing a picture of the piece of equipment in the chat room.
Oh, cool.
It's rotating around.
Oh, nice.
I have to not look at it. It's kind of going to make me dizzy. And so how long can you film with that? Is it an hour worth of filming, couple of hours worth of filming?
Well, you're going to run out of battery life before you do media. It takes up to a 32 gig SD card. And depending on if you record in high def, like I do, you can get about 15 hours out of it, in high def. If you drop that down a little bit and go to 20 frames per second, you can probably get, 2 or 3 days out of it. But the main thing with this unit, there's so much going on and a lot of electronics, is the battery life. It does take 16 AA's, which sounds like a lot, I know. But if you use the front 8 AA's are just for the IR illuminator. Those are the lights we were talking about earlier. And then the rear, which those last for about 4 or 5 investigations. But the main 8 drive the DVR and things. Those will last about 2 or 3 hours. And if you have rechargeables, you can just hot swap them. So it's not a big deal. But yeah, so, I would say you get about 3 hours out of it continuously.
And so is it something that you could just put down and plug in?
You can
plug it in?
Yeah, you can. A lot of people do plug it in. They'll just set it on the ground and put, some of my other sensors in frame, and they'll just let it run all night. So, yeah, you can do that as well.
So when we were in Jefferson, I saw a couple of people, because everybody was all decked out with your equipment, running around, like they were popcorn vendors at a ballpark with those, with those on, and so. They're not necessarily meant for static placement. They are also designed for an investigator to take and use as they're walking through the property too, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're originally built, as a handheld recorder. The reason why I designed them to handheld is because, when we're doing investigations residential, it takes sometimes an hour and a half, 2 hours for some groups to set up 8 cameras. You got to run wires to a dedicated command center. Sometimes cameras don't work. And so basically, this is just like having a wireless command center in your hand. You just turn it on and you're ready to investigate. So it's great to be, in handheld form.
That's pretty cool. Have you had issues? One of the things I'm sure you know about is about batteries just going and dying when you do certain investigations. Have you had that kind of problem with this equipment?
No, I haven't. Out of the, I've been investigating since '97. I've only had 2 instances of weird battery issues, and none of them were in the equipment I was using. One of them, I had 2 batteries in my pocket. This was in Yorktown, Texas. And they just started vibrating on me. And I put my hand over them, and they were still vibrating. I pulled them out, and they weren't hot or anything like that, so I couldn't explain that. And then, I've had a flashlight that the batteries just popped out on. I have that on film. The spring just went ding, and could have been a malfunction, but I was using the flashlight all night. It screws on, so I don't know what the deal is with that. But I've never had where I could say it was a spirit draining the energy or anything like that. I don't have any proof of that. I've never had any experience with my stuff, that is.
Well, and I'm not saying whether it was a spirit or not. I mean, I know I've done a number of investigations that you put new batteries in, and then, like 10 minutes later, it's like,
yeah,
ain't working.
Uh-huh.
And I was just wondering if you've had that kind of a problem.
Yep. Nope, not out of these. Never had that issue. Yeah.
Mm-mm. You must put like that don't suck my juice mojo on them or something. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think, I use between 4 and 8 batteries on most of my sensors, and they don't require that many batteries. Most of my sensors will last, you can leave them on for 3 to 4 weeks, and they'll keep going. So it may have something to do with that. A lot of the things that are commercially put out, they're designed, for a certain current of batteries, and mine aren't. They're just designed to go forever as far as battery life. So
cool. All right, let's talk about one of my new favorite pieces of equipment, which I didn't understand for a really long time, but now I totally get it. And that's the periscope. Okay,
yeah.
But I'm gonna give a little preview.
Okay.
Well, actually, why don't you describe what it looks like, and then I'm going to share the story. Okay.
So the periscope is it has 8 little acrylic tubes that are spaced out about a 1/4 inch in between. And it's almost like if you put your hand up, it's kind of in a fingery pattern. And underneath there is 8 LEDs. And what this does is it detects static electricity. So if you were to actually charge yourself up and run your hand over it, the LEDs, the tubes, will follow your hand. So it's a very visual piece, but it's one of my favorite pieces.
All right, so here's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So we were both in Jefferson, Texas, this past October at the Spooky Haunted History and Legend Conference, and I actually went out and did the investigation versus going and hanging out in the bar all night, and and had a great time. But I was with Jeremy's group, and one of the things that we were doing in the different locations was EVP sessions. And so he set up, we set up a bunch of these sensors, in particular in this one long hallway. And there were a number of the sensors, and then started, asking if there were any spirits, could you come over and stand next to one of these sensors? Well, was it you doing the question? I forget who was actually doing the talking part. But anyways, they made that statement. And within a couple of seconds, one of the little light things came on. Oh, spooky. And so then they started asking some questions. And every time, they would ask a question, the little light thing would come on. Like, is it okay that we talk to you? And the little light thing would come on. And you have to understand there were like 30 people in this room, but everybody was lined up against the walls of the hallway or sitting on the floor, and it was dead silent. Yeah. I mean, there was nobody moving around, and except for when the light went on, and there would be these gasps like, And if I remember correctly, didn't we get some activity, like actually, because there were multiple ones set up, some activity actually moving down the hallway?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, that building was something else. I mean, I've ran these things in a lot of buildings, but we got a lot of activity that night. We had them on. I put them in the stairway at one point. We had them in the hallway. It was a really good, investigation, and then also in that main room where you and I were. But definitely a very visual night with those things.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things, for people that are listening, having one is cool, but one of the things that Jeromy does is he'll take 4 or 5 of them. Like there was this really long hallway, and he just put them down the length of the hallway. So if there was movement down the hallway, it was like you could kind of track where the person was, or, and so you can play with them to just kind of watch where things are actually happening in, a 3-dimensional kind of way.
Right. And that's the main thing behind them is I first designed them to put them in doorways in my investigation so I could figure out where to go. So that's exactly right. They're used to track energy, and it works very well.
And they're rainbow colored.
And they are, so yes.
Well, that makes it better. Come on.
Yeah, they have 3 green, 2 yellow, and 3 red LEDs in there. So, but when they all light up, you make purple, and looks really cool. The other thing, I get out of this is, we're made out of static. No, not made out of, but you know what I mean. We generate static. So, is it us we're just detecting and not anything paranormal? The answer to that is I don't know. Stay still and we'll see. But usually, I tell people to back up about 10 feet, and they don't detect anything after about 10 feet unless it's lightning, striking. But yeah, you saw him firsthand, so I'm glad you got to see him.
Yeah, I was mega impressed. And so how, we don't think of a ghostly presence as being static,
right,
at all. And so what's the thought process? I mean, even for me, I could see, well, having some kind of an EM detector light thing, but what was the idea behind doing it with the static charge, measuring static?
Well, for one, all the meters, well, I can't say all. Most of the meters that you see people use, like a Mel meter and things like that, those are designed for electricians to find, currents in the wall. It's current electricity you're detecting. So when those go off, there's so many different elements around that can set those off. So I'm one that I don't like false positives. I'm trying to get to the source of what it is they're studying. But I wanted to design something that, if we pass, then hopefully we can generate the same types of electricity, when we pass than we do now. The good thing, there is static electricity around us at all times. But what I do is I usually look for intelligent patterns, like, asking the questions and things like that with this meter. But with static electricity, it's not like your cell phone sets it off or microwave oven, anything like that. That's all current electricity. So it's a totally different type of electricity. So the whole point behind this design is to go in a different direction of trying to detect things.
This is kind of just a weird thought that came to me. Could that be why in some situations when there's a ghostly presence around you, the hair on the back of your neck stands up?
Exactly. Yeah, that's static electricity that's going to cause that. So that this unit would actually pick up on that as well. You'd have to have it pretty close to your arm, but, hopefully that's what you're saying, could be, the ghostly presence rubbing up against you, and it's the same type of thing that I'm trying to detect.
But that's even cooler, making that little connection.
Yeah, it is. I made another connection with humidity because humidity tends to kill static electricity. All the, water droplets gathers around the static and kills it. So I've actually done investigations where you get rid of the humidity, you turn the AC on or whatever, and these things go crazy with your intelligent questions. But to me, my thoughts are, okay, if humidity kills static, then maybe it also kills any type of paranormal activity, because as you know, there's downtime for this activity. It doesn't happen all the time when you're investigating. You'll have little spots here and there, so it may have something to do with that too.
Well, that's a really interesting point, and I think something that would be really easy to kind of test out if, there's a location, somebody's house that's just having a lot of activity, to have them run their air conditioner or, put some kind of like vapor, thing going on so that they didn't have static electricity, and see if the activity that they were experiencing diminished. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I've done experiments like that. It seems, to make a difference, but I haven't had enough, experiments with it to come to a conclusion.
But that's just I just, really admire people like yourself, like you and David Roundtree, because you're really looking at, the whole concept of ghost hunting from a much more technical perspective, and what's going on in our environment, and in the environment, and what can I do to, create reputable, repeatable, documented case studies of different situations.
Yeah, and that's the thing. If I like putting my research out there so that people can tear it apart or agree with me or try to recreate it. It's all scientific based, so that way you can come closer to the answer. You can't get an answer if you don't let people experiment with your stuff.
Well, and I really feel like this field is changing. I mean, when I first started, I've been doing house stuff for a gajillion years, but when I moved to Texas and I started working with Metroplex, there weren't hardly any groups. And so just going in and taking a bunch of pictures and setting up some cameras and looking for evidence was pretty much what people did. And it just seems like it's changing so much and becoming much more scientific, much more not prioritized, systematized.
Right, yeah. That's a good thing, though. That way, the ultimate goal, at least for me, is to, answer that question, life after death. There are some people out there who just want to be on TV and be famous and make money with this. And I do sell this stuff online, but it funds my group. I don't make much money with it, especially because it's all labor intensive.
Uh-huh.
So.
Well, is there... All right, tacky question to ask on air. But no, it's tacky. But anyway, but is there, a big enough market that that's something that you could look at going into a mass production type scenario with?
Yeah, and actually, it got so busy last year, I almost had to go that route of mass production. The problem is, since I'm building everything by hand, when you take that to somebody, a designer that's going to have a computer automate it, your design is going to change a lot, and it's not going to have that. I like that handmade feel. It's just there's something about it as opposed to having it manufactured. Not only that, the casts are $10 or $10,000 each. I don't have that. But
that part.
Yeah, that's the little part.
The little part. Okay, and so similar to the Periscope we were talking about before, one of your new products, if I'm not mistaken, is the 360 Periscope?
Yes. The 360 Periscope is basically an outdoor version of the Periscope. I wanted to have something where you could either stick on a tripod or out in a field somewhere or whatever that's going to pick up 360 degrees of static electricity. So you could actually put your hand over this and follow it around in a circular pattern. I've tested this out many times outdoors. It's a great piece. The main problem again is yes, there is static electricity everywhere, especially outdoors. But if you're asking a question and you say, "Hey, can you, turn that on and light up on the red LED? Now move to the green, and now and it starts doing it in that order," then obviously you can deem that paranormal. But yeah, so my 360.
So you've had that happen?
Oh yeah,
cool.
There's videos all over of these pieces just interacting intelligently. It's pretty cool. So
but you were going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say that the 360 is just it's basically two periscopes in one, set up in a circular pattern, so you can the antennas are set up in such a way where it'll pick up 360 degrees and follow with these LED towers. And the LED towers, they're not horizontal; they're vertical. It's kind of cool little pattern. They look like a UFO.
For all those UFO people that are listening, I know your partner. I'll say partner, Richard.
Yeah.
I suggested that he should make me a little hat. Like a little headband hat with the lights on it, so that when a ghost is coming by, I would light up. I think it would sell. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we could make some really cool jewelry out of it, couldn't we?
Well, they have the radiation sensor badges, and you could make like a ghost warning badge.
Yeah, there you go. A little pin you wear in your shirt. That'd be awesome. You're gonna see those at the next convention.
Well, okay. I'll have to get one.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. What else do we have? The Geopod.
Yep.
Okay, so I've seen that on your table at the shows, and I've other than I want to squeeze it kind of to make a noise, but what the heck is it?
Well, a geopod, basically, it has a sensor in there called a geophone, and scientists use that sensor to detect earthquakes. So if it can detect an earthquake, you can imagine how sensitive it is. With this geophone sensor inside, it has a little board that drives the LEDs, so it'll display the vibrations on these 10 LEDs that are on the front. So, we can set this on a table, and you can tap it very gently, and it'll start to register on these LEDs. Now, what we use them for is actually for trying to detect footsteps and things in houses, because that's one of the claims you get on hauntings is, I hear people walking all the time in my house. And so instead of actually hearing it audibly through your cameras, you can now see it visually as well and make the two correlate. But, we sit them on the ground where supposed footsteps will happen. Sit really still, make sure everybody's in frame, and if you hear footstep and it lights up, it's just more evidence to go towards showing your client that.
And how sensitive is that? I mean, how little bit of vibration would have to happen to set that thing off?
Well, I've got videos of me actually sitting it on a tile floor, and I'm about 10 feet away with socks on, and it picks me up walking. And so you can imagine a tile floor is pretty hard to put, vibration through. It's pretty solid. And I can barely tap my foot, and it will detect, my socks. You can turn it up. It's got a little tuning knob on it. It's called a potentiometer that will make the vibrations more intense, or the detecting of the vibrations more intense. Or actually, you could pick up cars driving by from outside while it's in your house. So it's very sensitive. You have to tune it out. The whole point of having the knob on there is so, if you have a refrigerator running and it's picking that up or something, you want to tune out all your background noise so it only picks up new vibrations.
That's interesting. I went to, when I was in college, I lived in it had been a funeral parlor. It was really haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't know until after I moved in that it had been the funeral parlor. And there was constantly this guy walking down the hall, walking up the stairs. I mean, totally walking up the stairs.
Nice, yeah.
You would have had a field day there.
Oh, yeah, I definitely would have.
Because, I mean, it was so spooky. Like, my roommate, there were 4 of us, 4 students that were in this place, and the room across the hall had been a viewing room. And I literally went into that room 5 times the entire year I lived in that house, because it was just so creepy that it was like, I'd go to the door and it's like, I can't even stand here.
Right. Yeah, I've had experiences like that. I've run towards them, though.
Well, even with the lights on, I didn't like going. No, it just had bad mojo energy.
Yeah.
So people did not like coming to our house. So anyway, so when you work with this equipment, I mean, a lot of them have lights on, and so the point of the lights is so that when something is happening, you can get that on film as well, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, that I like the pieces very visual, so that you can see it on camera. If you're watching at a command center, they were originally designed for residential investigations, but they branched out highly into taking them into buildings and things like that. But it's a really cool piece to just put down somewhere and walk away and then ask questions. You can even have them, in front of you. But that's the whole point behind making them look flashy, is so that they look good on camera.
So you can be on TV with your equipment.
Exactly. Make your money.
Well, that's right. So we have a question from Jim in the chat room, and It says, I know geophones from the oil business. Has he thought about stringing a bunch together to do some location finding?
I have. I've had a modular line of camera equipment where actually it'll have a little 1/4-inch jack sticking out of it, male and female, and one male and the other one. And I have done that with the GeoPod, where I've connected, them in series using that method. I haven't done it for location sensing, but I've done it just for, tracking it and throughout the house. Possibly a cool thing to do with that, Jim, would be to, visually put it on the screen if we had a house and we put them all out there and we had it on a LCD screen that we're watching and it goes off, it would visually show where in the house without having the cameras on it. And you could also you could probably run your vibration through analyzers and it'll tell you the exact vibration and tuning and things like that. So, yeah, I have done that.
Cool. Okay, and let's see. This is from Jamie, and it says, well, does Jeromy work with any well-known groups who he uses to test his newest inventions or design gear for? Or do you design gear for them, I guess?
Yes. I can't really state the names, but you'll see them on a lot of the shows. There's 3 of them that are going to air this year. I've had to sign off on a lot of them, just letting them use my equipment. So yeah, you're going to see them out there, and I've designed specific equipment for certain people. I can make custom items as well. So yeah, there's a lot of people out there that have their hands on it. I'm happy to see it.
So do you get good product placement? It's like, well, when we were using Paranology's model, blah, 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 detector, we picked up.
Right. Well, sadly, they're not going to be able to use my name. That's TV.
Well, can you
for
put a big logo on it?
Oh, yeah. I just started doing that. Yeah, there's a nice logo on everything I use. But I think, you can look at just about all my equipment and tell it came from my design. I mean, they all kind of branch out there as far as design pattern compared to everything else.
Mm-hmm. But it's all about marketing.
Yeah. I'm not a very good marketer. My wife is, but I'm not.
And so then there is the wireless phonopod.
Yep.
That's the phonopod.
Phonopod. Yeah, now that piece is really cool. You're going to see that at this next... Are you going to the next History House of Legends? Okay,
yes,
so
sir.
you'll see that piece if I'm running the investigation there again, too. So I'd be glad to have you on that so we can check it out. But what this is, it basically has 2 microphones on it. They're spread out about 6 inches, so you'll have stereo audio. And it sends out an infrared signal. So in other words, this infrared signal is going to hit your headphones, and you'll be able to listen to the audio wirelessly. There is a slight delay, not even half a second. So if you ask a question, it's going to come through the headphones, just a slight delay. And the whole point behind that is so you can listen to live EVPs. Because, with EVPs, we generally hear them after the fact, or otherwise it would be a disembodied voice. But so when we take our recorders home, stick it in the computer, and listen to them, there's these voices there for some reason. Well, the point behind this is so we can listen to them live. And you can have up to 50 headphones if you wanted to wirelessly. So I can give everybody in the group the headphones, and we can all ask these questions live and hopefully hear responses. And you can whisper from 10 to 15 feet away, and these microphones will pick it up. So it's a very cool piece. You just got to be careful, somebody's not hiding in the corner whispering. Yeah, exactly.
All right, that one I think is kind of the most creepy. EVPs, other than half of them, people are like, well, didn't you hear them say that? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
But then there are the few that it is remarkably clear what what is being said. But then at the same time, you go, okay, but that was just somebody standing somewhere saying it.
Right.
I mean, this is really, and so. Is this hooked up? Is there like a recording mechanism in this as well?
No, I try to keep. I could have done that, but I try to keep everything, under $100 or around $100. If I put a recording device in there, it's going to go way up in price. Most of your investigators already have recorders anyway, so I just put a headphone jack output so they can plug it into their recorder and record, on their own media. So it does have the capability, but you have to have your own recorder.
Okay, but listening. That's cool. But that's a cool thing.
Yeah. The other cool thing is you can actually, that same headphone jack, you can input something into it. So let's say you have your iPod and you plug in your headphone jack from your iPod into this phonopod. You can listen to your iPod with these wireless headphones or review or do whatever. So it actually works both ways.
Huh.
So,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so I'm just going, so can you take some of this equipment and mix and match them together? Like what would work, because I was thinking, okay, but the TriCam already has audio input.
Right.
So you wouldn't really need more audio input, but you can't use the wireless headset with it. I'm just thinking out loud here.
Yeah. Well, the TriCam actually has a phonopod built into it. So when you get a TriCam, it has the headphones, wireless headphones, and it has one of those built into it. The point behind the TriCam is trying to put everything, in one. It does cost quite a bit, but there's a lot of engineering involved. But with that particular piece, it has just about everything. But with the different sensors I sell, like the Periscope, the Pyramid, and the Geopod, those are fun to play around with because not all of them go off at the same time. Sometimes you'll only get one going off at a location, and they alternate them. It's really cool to play around with them or to have them all at the same time. But I have them, I've run them in many locations and just had some really good, intelligent interaction with them, so I'm happy with the designs. I have, 10 or 15 other pieces sitting at home that I have to do some more studying before I put them out, but I'm going to continually put things out.
So I think, we didn't talk about the Pyramid, so maybe we could cover that one real quick.
Okay. So the Pyramid is basically it uses the same technology. In your cars you have the backup sensors. It beeps at you if you're going to run over a kid. So what that is ultrasonic. It's kind of like radar. It sends out a 22 kilohertz frequency, bounces off something, and comes back into the transducer. And then it tells you on the screen, okay, that was coming from the left side or the right side. The thing with the pyramid is that there's two sensors. There's one on the right, one on the left, and then you have a display below it. So if you were to put your hand in front of it, it's going to use echolocation and bounce off your hand and get sent back and say, okay, your hand is 3 feet away from the pyramid on the left side. The weird thing about that is it shouldn't work for anything paranormal, but it does. This is made to pick up solid objects. It doesn't false. It's very hard to make it false. You'd have to send the same exact frequency into it from another location. I've tried to make it false. I know you can, but I haven't been successful. But I have had it go off with questions and in doorways again and things like that. So I can't explain why it works, and a lot of the things I build I can't explain, but that's why it's paranormal.
That's right. But, you might get, it's interesting because I feel like all right, from my point of view, there is in this area, in like the UFO area, and in a bunch of the, I like to say, alternative thought areas.
Right.
There is so much, I'm going to say, circumstantial evidence that it just makes me go, well, when are you going to start turning around and going to the, well, maybe it could be possible, like those people.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Okay, so we had one other question in the chat room. Okay, and the question is, Jamie wonders if you use night vision scopes that use light intensifiers and not LED night vision like my Yukon Ranger 5x42. I hope that made sense to you.
Yeah, I think he's talking about what they call starlight technology. You see it on a lot of the shows. They're not using infrared LEDs to reflect off. Basically with infrared, it's like shooting a flashlight at something. It's just we can't see it. The technology he's talking about is just very low light. It picks up very low light, and you don't have to have anything bouncing off and coming back into the camera. It would actually be better for paranormal investigating, because then you wouldn't have to worry about shadow figures and things like that trying to prove it wasn't infrared. But no, I have not used that. Don't have the funds for it.
So we just have maybe 2 more minutes before we need to go to break. Okay. Any last pieces that you want to mention real quick, or?
No, I mean, I think we would overall. I have the Panoptic camera that's just Panoptic meaning all in one. It has the IR illuminators, the microphone, and the full spectrum camera all built in one, so you can put it in your various rooms. We went over all the illuminators, phonopod, so yeah, I think you hit it all.
Yay. And guys that are listening, do go check out his website, paranologies.com, because this stuff is freaking cool. I mean, you see it in action, and it's even cooler. So anyway, give yourself a plug. I know you have some shows coming up. Where are you going to be, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so you can find me, like she said, paranologies.com, or on Facebook, /paranologies, or /Jeromy Jones, Jeromy Jones. And my event's coming up. I got the Texas Paranormal Unity Fest, and that's going to be March 23rd. You can find that on my website, Paranologies. There's a link. And then also the History, Haunts, and Legends in Jefferson, Texas. That's April 6th. That's my favorite conference. I love that. You will be there too, I assume?
And I'll be at Para Unity Fest too, so we're going to get to hang. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yep. I love whenever I do a show and we talk about Jefferson, or whenever I talk about Jefferson. I don't even have to talk about that show. I'm always like, spooky Jefferson, Texas.
Yeah, love it.
Well, the music's going to be coming up, so Jeromy, we need to go. And Thank you so much for coming on and talking about your great gear. And I will see you in March, if not sooner.
No problem. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. You are so welcome. And that's Jeromy Jones. His webpage is paranologies.com. And we will be back with David Sereda after these words from our sponsors.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Ree Louise, will return right after these messages.